This is Anish Chauhan and this is Equilibrium Security. It's time to tackle your biggest cyber security challenges head on. Hello everybody and welcome to our Cyber Hot Seat, where we take your biggest challenges and tackle them head on. This is episode 18 and this time I am joined by Cristina Lasagni, founder of Futuraya. Hi, Cristina. First of all, tell me if I got any part of that pronunciation right, because we did practice it first.
That's a great point. Hi, Anish. Thanks for having me. No, I think it was almost perfect. Clearly, the name is half Italian, half Spanish, so it's hard to get it right. It's Futuraya,
Okay.
where yeah means now, and the future is now.
I love that. I love that name. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And that is so true, isn't it? So our title for this episode is, and I think it's a really good title. I really like this title, but it's Trust Doesn't Come with a Badge. And we're going to unpick why we came up with this name and this title in a second. But do you want to just introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, Cristina?
Yeah, for sure. Of course, my name is Cristina Lasagni, founder of Futuraya, a cybersecurity consultancy that helps small, medium enterprises to feel safe online with a hybrid or multi-cloud architecture. So I've spent the last 15 odd years in technology. So I've done last 8 years at Cloudflare. I come from a Cisco background where I cover both pre-sales roles as well as sales roles, work with Dropbox, and obviously I've seen the good and the bad for small, medium, and enterprise businesses. And I'm passionate to share my views on and hopefully help somebody to brainstorm on how to create a better online presence without the headache.
Absolutely. That sounds really good. And one thing I like about us, we had some quite good chemistry in when we started talking about these subjects, is because we've both come from a reasonably technical background, right? We both have had some technical exposure, and I'm not saying that you have to have technical exposure to be able to be an expert in a particular area, but it helps, doesn't it? Do you think that actually knowing what challenges you face makes it a little bit easier to comment on those challenges?
I think it's very nice when you have a background of an architectural and networking background, because cybersecurity, which is where I specialized in the last 8 years, is not just cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has to work in a background of a number of components. So it's so funny. I was talking about this with my friends the other day, and she was born technical, she stayed technical. I graduated from engineering back in Italy, telco engineering, and then after 6-7 years of my career, I pivot to be on a more sales role. But actually, what she says to me, you never stop being technical, and this is the great thing. I've got kind of both background, understanding the business, understanding the benefit, being able to articulate the benefits, and being able to articulate the technology in a business context. That's priceless, and I feel so fortunate that I could have that kind of path going forward.
And I think it's true to say that a lot of organizations, a lot of vendors, because we're going to get onto this, right? The trust doesn't come with a badge theme, is that a lot of vendor organizations are driven and to address problems, but not necessarily driven by solving those technical problems, and they're perhaps driven by profits and the bottom line instead of actually tackling the main problem. So from your perspective, Cristina, why do you think so many businesses are struggling with vendor selection? Because you just have to go to any security event, look at any security, Google any term, whether it's IAM or cloud protection or wherever it might be. There's hundreds of organizations or hundreds of vendors, that claim to solve a particular problem. So why do you think so many businesses are struggling with vendor selection right now?
Well, let me give you a brushed answer. I think at the moment, everybody's struggling to understand, all the possible vendors out there that do everything, right? It's a mix between technical debt that originated from COVID, where businesses have purchased more technology that they could actually consume or implement. Then the space is really crowded. I think everyone now is thinking of cybersecurity. In the last probably 10 years, there has been a rush on cyber. When I started this journey in the networking journey, there were a few vendors. Now everybody's doing everything. Everybody's doing one-stop shop. Everyone is best in class, and now with AI, everyone is AI powered. So.
Or even an AI expert. That's quite funny, isn't it? Someone's an AI expert, even though it's a.
I mean, I think that's very premature for any of us, having that badge on. It's definitely interesting to see that if you're like a cyber curious or AI curious, but vendor selection at this stage is very difficult to respond to your answer because people are trying to still have an ROI of what they purchased during COVID, and also they have skill set that are limited because their time is finite. And their team has so many people that can take on so much. But also it's so the size of companies, especially small and medium enterprise, don't have the capacity to be expert in everything all the time. So it's a mix of team constraints and historical situation where we live in, to be honest with you, at the back of COVID.
What about is it ever driven by sort of fear or confusion and very, very good marketing? Is that contributing to the problem?
So I think cybersecurity as a business, as an industry, it's very peculiar. Usually marketing always gets you with a fear of missing out, with a classic FOMO message, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have it now, this is going to happen to you. And cybersecurity is particularly good or bad at passing that message out, right? So the message is, oh, you're going to be victim of ransomware, you're going to lose the money, you're going to get the fines, things of the GDPR message. And so it's a lot of scaremongering out there. And I think people are tired because people at the moment, they have to refocus on what the priority are, what they want to achieve, and what the business want to achieve. And in the previous years, I think there was less of a need for a homogeneous kind of approach. And now it's fundamental if you want the business to scale, the business to grow, because the technical teams are part of the business. They cannot be seen as separated anymore. And that's why you will see lots of board taking cybersecurity more seriously. Now it's becoming a business problem as opposed as a technical problem. And that is where the vendor selection is becoming very hard.
Yeah, it definitely is. And so sticking with the theme of what we're talking about here, and that is, we came up with the title, actually, credit where it's due, actually, Cristina, you came up with the title. The trust doesn't come with a badge. And I really thought when we settled on that, that's a great title. Now, vendors push certifications, don't they? Because, well, actually, I won't say why right now, but vendors push certifications. And that's like from an individual point of view, if you're trying to carve out a specialization, whether it's with some of the vendors you've worked with, Cisco, Cloudflare, whoever it might be, we're not singling anybody out, that there is a certification drive, isn't there? Become an expert in our product. You understand our product really well. You can adopt it, you can deploy it, you can maintain it, and actually it means the clients and everybody else gets a good experience from it. But let's unpack your quote a little bit more. Like, trust doesn't come with a badge. What does it mean from your perspective?
So it was so funny because we were talking about everything and nothing, and then all of a sudden I said, "Trust doesn't come with a badge." Haha, moment, right? And we both saw, "Oh, that's really nice," and we made the title of this session. So, as you said, it was completely casual, but well, like in my career, like I've been, as you said, with strong vendors in the industry, and now clearly I set apart and I kiss goodbye, and I'm making a living out for myself and my capability on advising customers. But I see in the industry, and I saw in the past, that clearly certification are a must because they are the first step to establish credibility. But oftentimes that is not enough. I always recommend, and I used to recommend also, when you look for a partner, for a business partner, in the end, technology partner is still a business partner out there.
Yeah.
Check their credential to understand how they've helped others. Because at the end of the day, we all have our values, we all have our needs to be solved, and not everybody's a good fit. It's like when you
Hmm.
go out, and that's why you have your supermarket of choice. That's why you
Hmm.
choose, a brand versus another, because they match your needs. And when you go and you lean back on a technology partner, it should be the same exact
Hmm.
process. Check who they help, check what are the value that they stand for, and check how they value your business. Because out there, I think there is so much confusion on everybody doing everything and being the best, but at the end of the day, you need to trust them in order for your business to be trusted by your customer in turn.
Yeah, I think that is actually very, very valid. And I actually hadn't thought of it entirely that way. Because sometimes we talk about getting the strategy right. So think about a strategy. Does first of all, if you define what your strategy is and what your risks are, then you can address those risks. But without doing that, you're just going to be led by a vendor and go, "Oh, okay, I like their branding, or I like the guy who took me out to dinner, and he got me tickets to whatever, so I'm going to buy his product." That happens, right? So how can an organization, despite what you've just said, including what you just said, sorry, how can an organization tell the difference between someone who's got the experience they need and they can marry that up versus them just trying to sell a product?
So this is one of the reasons why I chose, and everybody called me crazy, I chose to be vendor independent, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
if I've got the best interest of my customer at heart, I'm not sure how I'm going to be independent if I know that I'm going to get commission to sell something else. So, and that
Yeah.
was the first thought process, and everybody called me crazy. I'm like, are you leaving money on the table? So the money is
Mm.
important, but for me, for me as a professional, and also as a customer, if I put myself in purchasing anything, right?
Hmm.
Trying to sell me something at this stage. Um, for the people that's right, we will try to sell us something after this
That's
podcast.
right. Yeah.
Uh, I buy based on trust, and that's how I think. Yeah, I think the sales process should be completed. So if I know that you have my best interest at heart, if you understand my business, if you understand what my values are, if you understand, if you care, that's the reason, right? That why you
Mm.
mentioned is, if you care, and I feel that you care about genuinely about seeing me succeed, that is
Hmm.
where you can embrace the other party as technology partner, business partner, or even complete the sales process successfully, because you know that you will not be left alone. So for
Yeah.
me, the bit is customer success, right? Customer success, it's a part that often get forgotten, because once you proceed, you transacted with the transaction, you complete the transaction, you got the money in the bank, then it's sayonara, baby. But
Yeah.
that's not how, for example, proceed. I always look for reviews, and so should customer look at reviews, recommendations, from many different angle and perspective, and genuinely verify those customer reviews.
Yeah.
The other thing.
Because there isn't much separating organizations from security effectiveness, and also the security effectiveness of the solution, the results can be manipulated, right? Okay, this product was very effective at stopping threats on this basis, but in these very specific circumstances, which might not apply to you. So just looking at reports that talk about security effectiveness of a solution might not be everything you need to know. You've got to look at the stuff you've just talked about, Christine, about the after sales element of it and things like that. Okay, it's a little bit like going to a car showroom, isn't it? I suppose that when you first go there and you're interested in a car, you get given a nice coffee, you get to sit down, you get treated really nicely, and the car you're looking at that point is probably a good fit for you because it suits your style or what you're looking for. But then you just don't know how is it the right car for you? Is it the right car for you doing your supermarket run and picking up the schools in a tight space or whatever it might be? So yeah, it's that as well, isn't it?
That's the thing. Like, if you do it as a consumer, because we all do
Mm,
it as a consumer, why don't you do it
yeah,
as a business?
yeah, absolutely. And this takes me on to the next point that, like, like organizations, obviously, your specialization is around the SME space, similar to ours. But lots of companies are now focusing on moving into the cloud, aren't they? They're going into that, or they have been certainly for the last decade and probably a little bit longer. Some organizations are actually going, actually, I'm not sure now. They're going back to taking some things on-prem. What's happening there? What's your take on that?
So it's so funny. I've sold cloud for the last 8 years, and I went from Cisco to somebody that was doing SaaS because I was a believer, right?
Yeah,
Especially in pandemic, everybody was like cloud, cloud, cloud.
yeah.
Everything is remote, everything is hybrid, everything is cloud. And now it's so funny because it's completely opposite. So when I noticed like even vendors are now struggling to sell more SaaS product and more services because there is, as you rightly said, like a comeback of an on-prem kind of a landscape. And I think it's a mix of factors. So one thing is the regulations, right?
Mm.
Regulations after GDPR, the world went crazy. Data
Gosh.
localization needs to DORA, especially if you have like a hybrid or a multi-cloud environment. It's so hard to look at everything that you got on under your tech stack in your
Yeah.
domain.
Mhm.
On-prem, you look at it and you see what you got. You don't know in cloud what kind of um, policies you got or assets you got, and we all live the rise of cloud with shadow IT. You don't know what
Mhm.
tools your employees are using, right? So it's a bit chaotic, and I think on-prem is a bit of take back control, like a Brexit
Mm.
slogan, take back control of your infrastructure. The other thing is because the rush to the cloud was so sudden, everything was put on the cloud. I think application were just, transfer from block A to block B. And that
Yeah.
is where you lose control, right? People have been burned by the costs of cloud because they were using cloud as they were using it on-prem. So like shifting VMware instances from one block to another, well, it may be a costly exercise.
Yeah.
Then there is the vendor lock-in, right? So once you're in one of these big clouds, it's very difficult to get out. They charge you for
Mm.
everything that goes out, everything that you want to move. But once you've done, you're free. So in my opinion, and sorry, maybe it's a bit a long answer, but there is not just one bullet point. There is a mix
Mm.
of all
Mm.
these elements that made our life a bit complicated. And maybe now we have like re-leveling at this stage where you go, oh, maybe all cloud is not good, maybe on-prem is good for something, and I will keep on cloud something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And also there's the fact that people have gone into the cloud with um big integration costs, big migration costs, and they don't really want to undo all of that as well. So it's important to kind of understand what they're doing there and making sure the decision is more of a long-term one than a jumping on the bandwagon.
And it's a challenge for everyone to understand what's right for them. Is obviously a costly exercise, but I think measure
Yeah.
is king here. You have to measure in your effort and understand. Now that we have a better understanding of cloud and are cloud experts,
Yeah.
that's for example what we do,
Yeah.
to understand what to keep there and what to keep on-prem, and for optimizing your cost and optimize your architecture scalability, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. And understand, like, the reason why I brought the cloud piece up specifically was to talk a little bit about um security and risk. Obviously, what I think some organizations, certainly in the SME space, did in the cloud was, I'm going to reduce my risk by moving it into the cloud because it's not my problem anymore, and I don't have to worry about patching a server and securing the premises and making sure, yeah. But have you seen in what you do, um, have been doing, have you seen situations where like a cloud solution, a cloud migration has actually increased risk instead of reducing it?
Yes. And then again, I'll try to keep it brief, but there is so much to say
Yeah.
about this topic. Um, one example is when, and then even pre-COVID, right? So e-commerce was thriving. It was maybe the beginning of 2010s, those years.
Yeah.
This big e-commerce customer or business rather, then just put all his brands, all his websites, got several
Hmm.
hundred, by the way,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
out there in the internet. They were using a very expensive CDN because they were saying we are the best. Again, I'm not going to say name. I don't want to offend
Sure.
anyone.
Okay. Fine.
And I remember they were paying a huge amount of money, north of 1 million, just to keep the lights on the CDN. So the
Mm.
CDN comes with a WAF, with the,
Yeah.
of course, web application, firewall,
Hmm.
DDoS protection, and all that sorts of things. Then on the other side, they were using a big hyperscaler. Again, not naming anyone, not shaming anyone,
No. No. No.
was obviously vital for them because it allowed them to create application that could replicate in different regions and scale
Mm.
clearly on demand as the customer they had grew. But then they were paying expensive egress fee from the cloud into the CDN, and on top they were spending tons of money on the CDN to keep customizing it, the
Hmm.
CDN provider to keep customizing.
Yeah.
So those, when I spoke first at them and they were spending so much money, I was working for a vendor then, and I was like, let me understand a bit better what you're trying to achieve. I understand that, especially in e-commerce, cost reduction is very important to keep that competitivity. But
Hmm.
when I saw what they were spending then, that was like completely mind blowing. So
Hmm.
basically, what we had to do with them is, even though they were very tech savvy, we had to do like a right sizing exercise, both on the cloud and the CDN. And long story short, we bring it all together. We consolidated cybersecurity in one bit. They could still keep their backend in their hyperscaler, but we managed to help them reducing the egress fee by 35%. We cut
Mm.
50% of the CDN cost, and we help them optimize their hyperscaler environment by reducing the egress fee, unused instances, and all this kind of setup that allow them to be more agile in the future.
So yeah, so in that case, it was more about kind of consolidating their efforts. But if an organization didn't have the ability to have your expertise, but they were meeting you for a coffee, and they're just talking to you and talking about, okay, where should I start? How do I look at vendor selection? Where should I invest my time and effort? Or maybe if they don't know what to do, what shouldn't they do? What are the red flags to look out for as giving some sort of real advice really from your perspective?
Yeah, so it is, again, it depends, right? It's a very
Hmm.
technology savvy answer. It depends. Everything is, it
Yeah,
depends.
no.
Um, I will look, first of all, at the business problem that you're trying to
Mm,
solve. What are you
yeah.
trying to achieve, right?
Yes.
No, there's no gold rush to, oh, I need to have vulnerability management. I need to have
Hmm.
a WAF. There is no such a thing. So
Yeah.
I will clear my head on where I want to go and have a roadmap in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years of my business goals. And then from
Hmm.
there, you map it back to the technology. Right, I want to be here. What do I need here? And then you go from compliance management to policy management to kind of infrastructure needs, and,
Hmm.
and kind of costs, which is also very important to factor, because at the
Of
end of the day,
course.
business needs to be competitive. And then
Hmm.
from there, go down and speak to consultants. Don't, like my advice is, don't commit to anybody, but speak to everybody,
Yeah.
and try to understand what's out there. Who are the ones, vendors and consultants, that get you, that understand, and will help you to get there. Having served vendor for so long, I can tell you that there are two kind of vendors: the one that kill you with features, and the
Hmm.
one that try to lead with use case. I've
Yeah.
always been in favor of trying to lean towards the ones that try to understand the use case,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, that's what is going to solve your problem now and in the future. The feature reach, they're going to tell you that we are best in class, and best in class is obviously going to
Yeah.
pay a lot of money. Not that it doesn't have to be good, but it has to
No.
be right. So
Right.
no silver bullet. And then lean back on a team of expert that can help you ad hoc when you need them. So you
Yeah.
don't have to flash the dollars of expensive professional
Mm-hmm.
services for vendors,
Mm-hmm.
but organizations that are cybersecurity and cloud savvy
Yeah.
will be happy to help you and make sense of the chaos out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good summary point, really, kind of understanding what it is you're trying to achieve, what your goals are, and not trying not to be too led by the vendor um strategy. It's got to be driven by your own strategy, really, hasn't it? What are you trying to achieve? And yeah, otherwise, because I think part of the problem is the fact that it comes from because some organizations might not know what the threats and risks are. They're going for the list of features and going, oh, it does all of these things, and I don't know what my risks are, so I'm just going to go with that because it's got a whole load of features, and
It's
I think I'm going to address all of my risks that way.
it's so funny because I work for a big vendor, I work for smaller vendors, and
Mm,
we always, coming across, vendors that were more experienced, let's say, that have
mm,
a longer feature list. And I'm going to say something a bit controversial here, maybe, but IT team wants to keep their job, and
mm.
it's just
Yeah,
normal to not know where to go, right?
yeah.
But sometimes we tend to choose the feature rich because they give us confidence that whatever,
Hmm.
they're prepared to overcome any problems now in the future. But often
Yeah,
that comes with a cost and a lot of headache, because those are the most difficult to customize, most difficult to stay at the top, abreast of their changes and their roadmap
yeah.
and everything. And we need to have like a balance between support and feature and ability to solve our needs in the short and long term.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair summary. We're not going to solve everyone's problem on this one podcast, but I think that's a pretty fair summary. Um,
Sorry.
just before we wrap up, let me ask you one final thing because maybe we can come back to it in the future. I don't know, but we can't have a conversation like this without talking about AI. So, as a very brief overview, um, how do you think AI is changing the vendor landscape and the security landscape right now?
That's a fantastic question, and I would love to say I've got the I badge here, right? The reality is I'm trying to even learn myself
Of
about
course.
AI from any standpoint, right?
Mm,
I did last week a course on vibe coding, which was amazing. I attended a webinar with Rachel Toback, amazing lady,
yeah.
which is an ethical hacker out there, that was talking about the danger of deep fakes and how sophisticated is AI deep fakes attack coming.
Mm,
I think it is a bit of a soup of concerns and opportunity out there. The
mm,
biggest vendor are still yet to come. That's what we say,
hmm.
right? Not
Yeah.
only cybersecurity, but out there, the new
Mm,
Microsoft, the new Dell, the new IBM are still to
mm,
be born. So this offers a great opportunity to everyone to broaden their perspective as a customer and as a vendor, um, and as a startup in space. So who is going to solve the next big problem with AI? It's definitely something that we need to take with a pinch of salt. From a cybersecurity standpoint, I think these AI will have to come from a customer perspective or from a consumer perspective with a huge degree of carefulness,
hmm.
because cybersecurity tools are not ready yet to
Hmm.
address the kind of sophisticated kind of scenario. There are
No,
lots
they're
of
not.
stuff out there, and I've got a newsletter about that. So if you're curious to be careful, follow my newsletter. But education will still be king, right? So,
Mm,
and there is a lot of noise in the industry today
mm.
about info security, and it's so important to be aware and to educate ourselves, not to trust, like the zero trust policy
Yeah.
principle, right? Um, but and always, of course, to understand the context, understand where that message or where that inputs come from, if the person that is actually calling us is the real person or not. But those are, for me, the deepest and the most dangerous kind of attacks that are going to be out there. From a vendor perspective, there are many out there that are trying to make a difference, from ID verification,
Yeah.
biometric authentications, kind of trying to bring together, analyzing different data for the SOC. The SOC is not anymore SOC. Now
No.
it's intelligent automated SOC. And there are so many vendors out there that propose to bring it all together for easier consumption and digestion.
Yeah, a great example of that is passkeys. Like everybody, all devices, laptops, everything is pushing passkeys. Logging into sites is now pushing a passkey. A passkey, by the way, is more of a biometric related thing rather than just a password. So yeah, we can see where all that's going. So I guess the answer to your question is we don't know yet. We need to wait and see.
I don't know yet, but I'm passionate about the subject. I
Absolutely.
will be an expert soon.
I think when maybe in a few months' time, when we're all both up to speed a little bit more, we can have another episode and we can talk about the AI angle.
Absolutely. Thanks, Anish.
Cristina, it's been so great to have you on this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did, and so yeah, thanks for joining us, and yeah, we'll have you on again soon.
It was great fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Cristina.
Cheers. Bye.